This video is all about Snow White at the Disney parks. Um, we will start with Walt Disney World. It's Walt Disney World, not Disney World. It's Walt Disney World. So, Walt Disney World. In the Magic Kingdom, there is the new Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train opened in 2014 in New Fantasyland, and November 1st, the day after Halloween, with the fireworks, it caught on fire. Um, but everybody riding the ride at the time was safe. There was no injuries, and everyone was safe. And I think it's still open. I think that it didn't have much damage. So because it's newer, um, there's a lot of interactions that you can do in line. So guests can interact with different features. You can sort a row of virtual gems. I don't know what that exactly is, but you can like wave your hand underneath something and trigger music or lights or stream of water. It sounds so much fun. I'm like, that sounds like fun. It's approximately 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And there are animatronics of the dwarves inside. And the whole ride is about experiencing them going to work. So you'll be inside the train, inside the cart, which it looks a like a handmade cart, and in it you travel through as the dwarfs go to work, and it's almost like a storytelling, like the Snow White Scary Adventures or stuff like that. Um, but it's more of a roller coaster, but it does go through the stories. So um, it is a little bit scary for some children. There is Fast Pass and Fast Pass Plus for it. Again, the roller coaster isn't as big as like some of the others, like some of the other roller coasters in Disney, like Space Mountain or I think Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and stuff like that. But it is a little bit of a roller coaster. Handicapped people must transfer from wheelchair, and that's all about the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Within the Magic Kingdom, you can meet and greet Snow White, sometimes at the Fairy Tale Hall or at Cinderella's Royal Table, which is it's a character dinner and meet and greet experience. Um, you can also meet the Seven Dwarfs, and this is everywhere. The Seven Dwarfs are hardly ever come out, but with the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, they've been more popular to come out, but I think they're winding down. But you can definitely see them at Halloween and Christmas parties and some other parties along the years. You can't see the Queen or the Prince in Magic Kingdom usually. I'm sure that they sometimes appear, but usually, especially the Prince is really hardly known to come up. So, in Epcot, there isn't any rides for Snow White, but you can meet and greet the characters. So you can meet Snow White in Germany and Arkischer's. I'm saying this wrong. I know I am, so I apologize. Art Akisher's restaurant. And I think occasionally you can see the other characters, but mainly Snow White. You can definitely see in Germany in Epcot. Hollywood Studios, you can see the Queen in the animation building. In Animal Kingdom, they're not there because they're not animals. At the water parks and the resorts, and I think occasionally you can see them at the resorts, but really they're only in the parks. They're not at the water parks because the water parks are mainly just for water, and you don't want to get those fancy costumes all ruined. So let's go to California, from Florida to California. So in Disneyland, there is Snow White's Scary Adventures. The original ride opened in 1955. It is a Storytale ride, so you go on it, you sit there, and as you're going, it's a big thing that holds two people in the front and two people in the back, I think, or it might be just two per cart. And You sit there, or 3 people if you can fit them all. And it's just a slow ride going along the story tale, and you can just go quickly through the story. It's really fun, and it's for all ages. I think handicapped people can ride it. I think there are actual handicap carts, or you can transfer. So the above the Snow White ride, the Snow White Scary Adventures ride, there's this big long window. You know, in the beginning when the queen opens up the curtains to peer down at Snow White. Well, so here she does. Um, every so often, this animatronic pulls open the curtains, peers through, and closes them. But meet and greet, you can meet Snow White in Fantasyland on Main Street, USA, next to the Wishing Well, next to the castle, and I think occasionally at the Royal Hall. And then the Queen you can meet in Fantasyland, sometimes with Snow White near the well and on Main Street. In California Adventure, you can meet and greet her with the other characters at Ariel's Grotto, which is fun. So let's travel from California across the Pacific to Tokyo. So Tokyo, in Fantasyland, there is Snow White's Adventures. The Queen doesn't show up in Tokyo. I think she might sometimes, but hardly ever. Hardly ever. You can meet the dwarves in Fantasyland often, more often than you can in any other Disney park. Snow White is at Fantasyland or is at the World Bazaar. The prince is shown off and on in Fantasyland. Let's travel from Tokyo to Hong Kong. So not that far. So in Hong Kong, there is Snow White's Grotto's Wishing Well, just like there is at Disneyland. And the Queen isn't usually known to show up in Hong Kong like Tokyo, but you can meet Snow White by the Wishing Well. But there isn't any rides that I could see. We'll go to Shanghai, but it's going to open next year, so in 2015. But not much is known about any of the attractions there. You can look forward to that. When Shanghai opens, I'll probably do a little video about what can be seen in Shanghai. So it looks like there's going to be a Seven Dwarfs mine, and you can meet Snow White. Travel from Shanghai to Paris. That I could see, there wasn't any rides, but like I said, but you can meet the characters. So that's the prince. You can sometimes meet him in Fantasyland or the Auberge de Cendrillon, and I'm pretty sure that's a character dining restaurant. Can meet the queen in afternoons around the Big Hat, or in the Disneyland park during Halloween season. And Snow White you can meet in the Princess Pavilion in Fantasyland or the Auberge de Cendrillon. So that's Disneyland Paris. So on the cruises, the Queen is never shown, the Prince is never shown on the cruises. I think the dwarves are rarely shown. But Snow White you can sometimes see on cruises. You need to check with your traveling agent and those people who are running the cruise and see which princesses and princes and other characters are going to be on the cruise. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and have a magical day. Look at Tiara. She has my handy dandy notebook. And I'm going to Disneyland in just a couple weeks, so I'm excited. That's my roommates. Thanks for watching. How am I going to end this? Fine, have a magical day. Oh, I'm so weird.